This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
So why do seagulls live near the sea? Because if they lived near the bay, they'd be bagels. Welcome to Wings and Things, where you'll find real answers to real questions about everything you want to know about pet birds. Care, feeding, bird products, travel, and more. Everything to make your frequent flyer a happy camper. From parrots to parakeets, cockatiels to cockatoos, you'll have a bird's eye view of everything there is to know about your fun, feathered friends. So, spread your wings and get ready to fly on Wings and Things.
Welcome to Wings and Things on Pet Life Radio.
We're your hosts, Barbara Heidenreich from Good Bird Inc.
and Robin Shawokis from the Leather Elves. Today's topic is training and enrichment made easy.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Sitting on a branch overlooking the parking lot, the pigeons watched as a Mercedes pulled in below them. What do you think? One bird said to the other. Should we put a deposit on that car? Stay perched. Wings and Things will be soaring back right after these messages.
What if you could protect the life of your cat with something so simple and affordable that you already use every day? Get ready for the evolution of kitty litter. It's Pretty Litter. Along with all the features you've come to expect from your kitty litter, Pretty Litter's patented and scientific formula will also monitor your cat's health and detect illnesses early while providing industry-leading odor control. 2 kitty litters, same cat, same price. But there's one important difference. Pretty Litter reacts to your cat's waste by detecting health issues simply by changing color. And the key is that Pretty Litter detects these issues before your cat shows symptoms of physical illness or pain, likely saving you major dollars in vet bills while protecting the health of your cat. What do you think, little guy? Ready to switch litter? Pretty Litter. Colorful insight into your cat's health.
Go to prettylittercats.com/cat101 or use coupon code CAT101 to get 20% off your first subscription order.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
A Frenchman walks into a bar with a parrot on his shoulder. The bartender asks, "Where did you get that thing?" The parrot replies, "In France. There are millions of them." Don't have a canary. Wings and Things is back.
Welcome back to Wings and Things on Pet Life Radio.
Well, you know, Barbara, as the topic says today, we're going to make training and enrichment easy. Not that it isn't already. We just need to get people thinking in that direction. You know, sometimes there are things that out there that can make it difficult. There are time constraints because you have plenty of free time, right?
Oh yeah, me? All the time.
I know I do too. And enrichment doesn't always come on the top of the list of things that you need to get done.
Yeah, but, you know, as a very busy person, I like to think, I can still find time for it.
There are definitely ways to get around that, and we'll talk about that later on. Some people say, oh, you know, I have 17 birds in my house, and
who has 17 birds in their house?
I don't. I have 1 bird in my house.
Okay, but we know you're out there. We know there's some of you that have 17 plus birds in your house.
It's true, and for some good reasons, too. But it's, you know, I have so many birds, and I can't give them all things, and it really takes, again, too much time to make things for everybody, and so there are ways to manage that, too.
Yeah.
And then, in addition to that, is the cost. You know, well, you know, if I bought a toy for every single one of my birds, how many times have I heard that story, you know? And it doesn't have to be going out and buying that toy. So
I have to admit, I'm a little bit cheap about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
and I think, you know, with our schedules, we get to travel a lot. And that's actually one of the nice benefits when you travel, because you go to a conference and there's a great exhibition hall and there's fabulous vendors, and by the time the conference is over, they don't want to carry a lot of heavy stuff home, and sometimes you get some really good deals.
Yeah, your suitcase, you have to buy that extra suitcase. Well, that's where the cost comes in. You have to buy that extra suitcase to take all of your stuff
and now you
home.
have to pay $25 to bring that extra suitcase home on the plane.
But, you know, so those are some factors. Or space. You know, maybe you've got limited space and the bird's in just the right size cage, and, you know, again, I don't want to put anything in there. Well, it's not always putting things in there.
You mean you don't have a closet in your house for all your enrichment items?
Well, some people
You might.
I don't. Some people do have that, and they're incredibly organized, and it's wonderful. And yeah, that's not the way it works at my house.
Wouldn't that be cool, though? How cool.
It would be. You could put all and organize them by type of enrichment. And
could be like an enrichment library in your closet.
And then have your calendar there that we talked about, posted, so that you just, okay, today I'm going to do this, and it's right here.
That's kind of cool. I like that idea.
So organization helps. And then the lack of ideas. I can't think of anything new, I've done it all before. My birds are bored. And then what that really says to me is, I'm bored. You're looking at the same things over and over again.
Yeah, and I think people fall in that trap with training, too, that they can't think of a behavior to train.
Right.
That gets challenging.
And I think some of the things that you're asking your birds to do, or people are asking their birds to do, may be training things that they could be doing, but they're not looking at them in those terms. And a lot of the things that people are doing anyway are actually enrichment. You're doing enrichment and not even knowing it. So that definitely happens. But, one of the things, when I have people come to my workshop, one of the things I always tell them, and I'm sure anybody that's been there will remember, it's not brain surgery. It doesn't have to be this huge task that you undertake. It can be, as simple as, okay, I'm going to do, set aside this time today and really work on enrichment and come up with a bunch of different ideas all at once and then present them. It doesn't have to be, okay, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, I got to get on the bus or get to work by 9, and what am I going to do today? It really shouldn't work that way, because then it becomes frustrating.
Yeah. Well, and actually for me, like, obviously giving your bird a bath can be really enriching. And for me, it's kind of a nice break from working, because a lot of times when I'm home, I'm in my office working at my computer, and my animals are around me. And to take a break to interact with my animals is really just a nice pleasure for me in the day. And one of the things that I've mentioned before, I have this new cockatiel banana pudding, and as far as I knew, he hadn't ever experienced a bath before.
Okay.
And taking him into the kitchen and letting him sit on my arm, and letting the water drip ever so slightly out of the faucet and letting him experience that. And I rested my hand in a way that he could walk down my arm if he wanted to approach the water, and he did. And I was so excited. He went over and he started like drinking from the stream coming down, and I thought, okay, well, let me just, I had a spray bottle too, and I was like, let me try just a little tiny spray nearby and see what he does. And sort of nature kicked in, and he started going through the body postures of wanting to take a bath, and I was so excited. It was so fun, to watch him. In my opinion, when a bird takes a bath, they're usually pretty comfortable and relaxed. They're not worrying about environmental issues, and so seeing a bird take a bath is like a pleasure for me, because it seems to me like they're having a good time as far as I can tell, Well,
I think that brings up a really good point. It was enriching for you and for Banana Pudding. It wasn't, it was new to him, it was new to you, and that's what enrichment's all about. There absolutely is that win-win situation where, you're doing these things for your bird that are stimulating, their lives and making them fuller, and at the same time, you're getting that response, which is part of building that relationship with your bird.
Yeah.
And then I had said before, setting aside a time to work on enrichment. You know what? I get my best ideas in the shower.
What? I do too. And somebody, I think it might have been Susan Friedman, who had said there's actually some science behind that.
There's got to be something about the way the water flows and it makes your brain go too. I don't know, but it's shower time, or take some of that TV time. When you're on the couch and you're just watching that show, and turn the TV off and maybe work on some enrichment stuff, or take your bird out and visually enrich them with the television.
Very good. So what about those people that have those 17 birds or more?
Well, you need...
two, okay.
Or two. I mean, if they're housed together, if some of them are housed in groups, providing things that resemble what might happen in the wild. These birds don't just sit on a branch and then go to their food source alone and do those kind of things in the wild. They travel as a flock. They feed as a flock. They do everything with another bird.
Or at least one other bird if they're not in a flock situation. Yeah.
Right. And so, if you can create those kind of opportunities, do it foraging, but put out enough so they're not all after the same item.
And I guess, of course, we should say that's with birds that actually do get along with each other.
Absolutely. You don't want to put the two birds that the cockatoo that hisses at the other bird, you don't want them going for the same enrichment item.
Right.
And I've used this before. It's like when you were a kid and you were in school and you had that gum and the teacher said, Barbara, do you have enough gum for everyone in the class? So you need to have enough enrichment for all the birds,
I was a good kid. I would never have done that.
Yeah, okay. Moving on right along. But I mean, it's just making sure that you're not creating issues, setting these birds up to have
aggressive
problems down
with
the
each
line.
other or something. Sure.
And then, the cost factor with recycling. You can use so many things that you find in your house. Those boxes, the recycled paper, like that you get for the carrier for your coffee. Different things like that. And just look at it. Assess whether it's safe, bird safe, and maybe recycle it. Before you throw it away, what can you do with it? How can you modify it?
I think we talked about this before. My dog, still a young puppy, not even a year old, and he's got a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And to make sure he's got lots to do, pretty much anything that I am about to throw out, before I throw it out, I look at it and I go, does this have any enriching opportunity for my puppy? And a lot of times I'll take, like, say I've gone through a box of Good Bird magazines and I've got an empty box, cardboard box. I'll take newspaper, crinkle it up, stuff it in there, and I'll sprinkle even his dog kibble, sometimes some other treats in there, so he never knows exactly what's he's gonna discover when he opens up that box. And then I just kind of close it in a way that's not so secure that he's gonna have a hard time, but just enough that he's got to work at it, and especially if I'm about to leave the house and I know I want him engaged in acceptable activity. I'll pop that box in the kitchen, and I have a puppy gate, and he's in the kitchen, and he has access to outside as well, and he'll just go to town on that box, and it didn't cost me anything.
Well, that's the thing, too. I think about soda bottles or pop bottles, depending on where you're from. Tonic if you're from the Northeast. But, you just poke a hole in that, tie a leather piece through it, and then think of the different number of enrichment options that you're creating. It can be auditory if you put something in there that rattles. It's tactile in that they play with it and tear it apart. You can put food in it and then it becomes foraging. And it's visual. They can see inside the bottle if it's a clear bottle. So there's all those different things being addressed for if you live in a state where there's a deposit on the bottle for 5 cents. Versus what you're going to spend for a big giant foraging toy, somewhere else.
Well, and another thing that I do that's really inexpensive, I also try to get my dog out to the dog parks. He's pretty well socialized and is very well behaved at him, and the dog park I go to has lots of bamboo growing.
There you go.
So that it's just automatic now that every time I go to the dog park, I'm going to grab a couple pieces of bamboo that I'm going to bring back for my birds. Mm-hmm. And it costs me nothing, and I'm going to be out there anyway, so it's not like I'm making a special trip. And even though you may think, oh gosh, bamboo again today, what happens is because the bamboo dries up and it gets all crinkly and it falls off and it ends up at the bottom of the cage, when I bring in fresh bamboo, it's like, ooh, this is different. So it's got that little novelty effect, and they get all excited about it and they go to town on it right away.
And the other thing with bamboo is it's got that natural shelf in it, the bigger pieces. And you can make sections, and you can put things in different sections. We actually designed a toy for crows that it was their natural caching behavior, and so you're focusing on something they do in the wild anyway, and so by hiding things inside there, it's a foraging opportunity.
I haven't tried that one yet. I get the little tiny, tips of the bamboo, so they're just kind of chewing off the leaves and the stems and things like that. So
I'm so jealous of those of you that have bamboo. I don't have bamboo at home in Massachusetts.
It does take over though, so you have to watch out.
It's definitely invasive, so don't go out there and plant a grove of bamboo in your backyard unless it's already
unless
there.
You really want it.
Another cost-saving option is, shopping in dollar stores. As long as you're careful with, paint and making sure that things aren't coated, dollar stores are a great option. You can put things together and make toys out of things you find, and it's a real savings. And then reusing, as a toy maker, part of my, I want people to buy more toys, but you can restring toys. When they bite the piece of leather or rope that goes through the middle and it all falls down, you can tie it up again. I know it sounds like, work, but it's in the long run, you're going to save money and you're using every bit of what you've got, because eventually it will be just, a pile of sticks or twigs on the bottom.
Well, and actually, when I guess this is back when I worked on Disney's Discovery Islands. This is a number of years ago, before they closed down that zoo, unfortunately, when the Animal Kingdom got up and running. But we were on a, believe it or not, we were on a tight budget even at Disney. And what we would do is when all the toy parts ended up at the bottom of the cage, we'd put them in a box somewhere and hang on to them, and then we would take those plastic tubs that are you can get like at Home Depot to mix cement and things like that, and we would take all those bits and throw them in a tub, and that would be enrichment on one of our days, right. And they would just like, oh my God, what's down? And we would call it like the toy box, because it was like, ooh, what's down there? And so they go in there and they explore all sorts of things. And I don't think we did it at that time, but my head goes to now. Well, we could have also sprinkled food in there that
right.
fell through all the little bits, and they would have had some other things to discover as they manipulated all that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And that's or they turn into foot toys. The hanging toys can turn into a foot toy if they are on the bottom and you put them in a box like that, then they're foot toys. So just reusing some of the parts, and then changing things up, so it's not always the same. That keeps things easy. And finally, just talking to fellow parrot owners about what they're doing. You may be racking your brain. I can't think of anything new. I haven't done anything new. So get out there and talk to people in your clubs or groups or on Yahoo groups, things online, and see what other people are doing. And that'll kind of sometimes stimulate you to come up with new ideas yourself.
Well, what do you think? Should we take a break and then come back and talk a little bit about ways to make training easy?
I think we should, because I'm sure it can be.
It can be. You're right. All right. Well, we'll be right back after these messages.
Stay perched. Wings and Things will be soaring back right after these messages.
Put on a perfectly possum pet party. Having an awesome birthday or adoption day celebration for your four-legged friend? Or just want a fun excuse to throw a fun party with your friends from the dog park? Deck out your party with Molly and Bandit Pet Party accessories. Party products designed specifically for pets. There are wearables, including adjustable pet party hats, bow ties, and tutus. The photo prop kits include funny glasses and hats. The party supplies and decorations include coordinating table covers, party banners, cake decorations, and treat bowls, cups, and bags. Everything you need to create great memories and Instagram-worthy photos. They're available in 2 colorful themes, tropical and fireman. It's a dog's life. Celebrate it with Molly and Bandit Pet Party at mollyandbanditpetparty.com/petlife.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
A Frenchman walks into a bar with a parrot on his shoulder. The bartender asks, "Where did you get that thing?" The parrot replies, "In France. There are millions of them." Don't have a canary. Wings and Things is back.
Welcome back to Wings and Things with your host, Robin Shawokis,
And Barbara Heidenreich.
on Pet Life Radio.
Well, we're going to get into ways to make training easy. I read an article not too long ago that someone was suggesting that it was really difficult for owners to train and that they'd be less likely to do it. And, it's pretty hard for an animal trainer to read, especially one who goes out there and is trying to help people learn how to do this stuff. And I have to say that in my experience, I've found that to be quite different. I think part of it is that maybe not so many people know about how to do it just
right,
yet.
and I think that is key, and to say that it's too hard. I have to say, I have a 12-year-old son, and he, of course, is brilliant. But he is 12, and he's able to train Nikki basic behaviors and gets such a thrill out of it. And so there's that reinforcer for him that, look what I did, and it was easy. It's not a big, he trained the turnaround on the perch, and it's not a major undertaking. My 12-year-old son can do it. You can do it too.
Well, and I've had that experience at my day-long workshops, and it's actually one of the most, they maybe they don't know it, but to me, it's one of the most reinforcing experiences when I'm teaching those workshops. I remember one in San Diego, and this really great family had brought their 2 children one was probably about maybe 10 or 11, the other one was maybe 7, and everybody had gone off to take a lunch break, but they stuck around there and ate lunch there, and they had their blue and gold there. And during the lunch break, the little boy trained the macaw to turn around in a circle, and he was kind of a quiet child who wasn't going to, like, look what I did, but he was so proud.
Right.
You could just see it all over his face. And then the really cool thing is, for quite a while, that family kept me posted as to what was going on. And they just got hooked on positive reinforcement training. Their kids were so excited about it. And it was actually, this maybe was probably 2 years ago, and they had the really bad fires in Southern California where people had to evacuate, and the wild animal park had to evacuate too, and they had horses and things like that, and they said because of their experience with the positive reinforcement training, they were able to easily evacuate their animals in a really stressful situation. Wonderful. It was so reinforcing.
It definitely is, and it doesn't have to be that big, difficult, scary thing.
No, and I remember, there's been some others too where there's children there, and watching them get it and do it so quickly. Or I get an email where my son watched your video and he tried it and he did it, and I was in 5 minutes, and so it's not that it's just basically positive reinforcement training. It's not like my secret method or anything. It's just that if people are given the information and we give them in the beginning behaviors that are easy to accomplish so that they learn how to do it, and their birds learn how to learn. Next thing you know, they're looking for the next challenge, because it's fun. Training's addicting.
It's such a huge rush when you train a behavior and your bird gets it down, and then it's like, I did. You do take that ownership. I did that, even though it's your bird that's doing the behavior. But there is a rush. There's that training rush, and it's really great.
And I think that's why, for me, when I teach these workshops, a lot of times we're doing behavior. I'm training the same behavior that I've trained many times, but it's with a new bird who may not know the behavior, and I still get that feeling of, ooh, that was so much fun, and one of the traps that a lot of trainers fall into is that we want to keep asking for the behavior over and over again because we got it. Oh, he did it, do it again, which after a while makes it perhaps not so much fun for the birds, so we've got to be careful of that.
Well, you have to read their body language and make sure that they're still having a good time doing this training session.
That's right. Well, and some other things that people don't realize is that a lot of behaviors can be learned really quickly in one session, and sessions don't have to be, these big labor-intensive things that you have to schedule and blah, blah, blah. I mean, literally, they can be, 5 minutes long, and you can make progress. And, if you had 3 or 4 5-minute training sessions in a day, you might have that behavior trained by the end of the day. And it doesn't and if you can't do it in one day, you do 5-minute sessions, over a week or over 2 weeks, and the next thing you know, you've got a behavior.
And I think you can grab moments for training, training opportunities, not necessarily when you're under some kind of time constraint, but there may be, okay, you're going by the cage and you've got those 5 minutes to do something, and just take it as a training opportunity. And that's real life with animal training, or training with your companion animals, the animals in your home. It's about every interaction and how you respond to it. When you ask your bird to step up on your hand from the play stand to go back in the cage, are you reinforcing that behavior, or are you putting it on extinction because you never reinforce it? And next thing you know, you're having the problem of, he won't step up on my hand to go back in the cage. And so it's really about applying it in everyday life anyway. One thing to keep in mind, though, is if your bird has had past history with something that was unpleasant to him, say, for example, your bird was restrained with a towel against his will, you may find that bird isn't very receptive to being comfortable with the towel very quickly, and that might take you longer to train. But if you've got a bird that doesn't have that kind of history, that behavior can be trained usually in 1 or 2 training sessions. And in fact, the lovely Banana Puddin', who I guess can't stop talking about, there you go.
I did some training with him, and literally, like, in one session, I was able to at least rest the towel on him, and with him remaining comfortable. I hadn't gone to the point of actually adding pressure and trying to pick him up. In my latest DVD on body language, Joseph and Toby are in there again, and he was in my first DVD, and this wasn't on film, but I was at Joseph's house and he wanted to try training that behavior. And because Toby was such a good learner and Joseph's a good trainer, he was able to get that little bird with a towel wrapped around him in one training session. I remember Joseph's face just being he was just, bright as could be, going, "Can you believe this? Look what he's doing." He was just so proud, but it was his good training with Toby that got him there.
And I think it brings up a good point, too, when you talk about history. There's really no reason for a towel to be a frightening thing. There isn't, just because we associate it sometimes with that negative, the bird was toweled inappropriately, and we've all had that experience, but it doesn't have to be. If there isn't that history, don't build it up so that it becomes that stumbling block for you.
Sure. Now, I guess the overall topic is making this easy, and certainly, we kind of addressed the time constraints as far as training is concerned. It doesn't have to be a big time consumer for you. But the other thing that I think is really cool about training is it doesn't really cost you a lot of money.
No.
In fact, there's not much you need in the way of supplies.
Well, you've got to feed them anyway, right?
Yeah,
well,
you got to have food
it's
for
kind
them.
of important.
If you want to use food to train, but you don't even have to use
Right.
food to train as a reinforcer. If your bird is into cuddles and head scratches, there's a great reinforcer right there.
And so they're really, you don't have to pay for your fist.
If I'm using my fist as a target,
That's
yeah.
right. So, it's...
And you can get, if you wanted to use a stick, you can go get some Chinese food and get a chopstick at the restaurant, and there's your target stick. That didn't cost you anything either. Some people like to use a clicker, and I think they cost, $1 or $2?
At the most. And if you're at a training seminar or something like that, sometimes they even have them for free. At the vendor booth.
They do, don't they? And then if you want to train a behavior that requires some props, like say you want to teach a bird to retrieve something, like a lot of people think of basketball because that's like your basic retrieve. But, I've trained it at seminars when we're like frantically looking for, something to work with. I remember taking I think it was like just a food bowl that the bird that was laying around to hold other food, and bottle caps from the bottled water people were drinking, and we used those as our object to place in the bowl, and again, really no cost to the trainer.
Those pieces that fell to the bottom that we talked about before from the toys, you can use those, as for a retrieve.
Yep. I agree. Well, I guess, and I would say that, we already talked about how little kids can do it. And I've certainly seen plenty of adults do it as well, so I know that it's possible. So I guess my challenge to people is that, if you heard it, if you're a little intimidated, just give it a try. Try something simple like training your bird to target, which is another really super easy behavior to train, just to get you started. And you'll just get that little rush of, oh my God, he did it.
Right. And the training in itself is easy, and then some things that we train make your life easier. It may be having the bird target so that when you open the food door, he's not trying to... Nikki used to try to sneak out the food door. My Kaik used to, here she comes with the food, and I'd open the food door, and, it's time to get out, coming out the food door. No, well, that's not how it works, And so we worked on... I target him up to the side of the cage, and then open the food door, put the bowl in, close it back up, and he makes that happy sound, a little brr, brr sound, and then, goes for the food. So.
Yeah. It's just... And, and here's the other thing I think that people forget is... Even though you may not be thinking that it's a formal, training session, you're actually training your bird all the time anyway. Every interaction you're having with that bird is influencing behavior somehow, one way or another, whether you're reinforcing it or you're punishing it, maybe without your knowledge because you're not thinking about it. But if you do get into that mindset of that, my bird just did this. What were the consequences of that behavior? Did I follow it up with some attention? And was it a behavior I wanted to continue and increase? And so you start thinking about, I just reinforced a scream. Darn it, I shouldn't do that again.
It's the walking out the door, and when the bird screams at you, and you say, "It's okay, I'll be back." Well, now you're reinforcing that scream as you're walking out the door.
Right. So it's really going on all the time. So spending a little time to learn how to train some simple behaviors will give you some good insights in how to manage all your bird's behavior, not just things to entertain you.
Great, good, thank you. And I think, we can talk about some of the upcoming events, and hopefully we can give people more information on making it easy. The workshops try to make it easy.
Yep. For both enrichment and training, we try to give you some great ideas and give you some practical applications so that when you go home, you've got some tools to work with and give it a try.
All right.
I'm going to be in Las Vegas on September 27th doing a parrot behavior and training workshop. This day-long event is hosted by the Southern Nevada Parrot Education Rescue and Rehoming Society.
Say that 3 times
I
fast.
know. And their website is lvbirdrescue.com. And then in October, I will be at the Gabriel Foundation with Dr. Susan Friedman, Jerry Labonde, and Lori Hess. And we're giving a seminar for veterinary professionals. It's a 3-day intensive hands-on opportunity for veterinary professionals.
And then on October 11th, I'll be in Long Island at Long Island Parrot Society's Parrot Expo. It's from 9 to 5. They have an amazing vendor room, and I'll be speaking on enrichment.
And then November 8th and 9th, everyone's coming to Austin, Texas, because Robin and I are doing a parrot training and enrichment weekend. So all this stuff that you heard a little bit about, we'll be doing live and in person. So come join us for that. You can sign up at the goodbirdinc.com website. You'll see a little announcement for it on the homepage. Oh, and what's next? March 28th. We're already looking at 2009. Can you believe it? And what is this? We're in the middle of a heat wave in the summer, I think, here. I'll be in Connecticut teaching a flight workshop, and we'll have more details coming up on that on my website soon. And then I'll be in Canada with Susan Friedman again. We're going to be doing a parrot behavior and training workshop in Ontario, in Toronto, up there in Canada. And more information can be found on parrotworkshops.org on that particular event. And then coming up, just to give you a heads up, in May 2009, I'll be doing some workshops in Europe, and more information will be posted on my website when I have that available for you.
And then at the end of May, the 29th through the 31st, we'll be doing the Best Parrot Conference in Edison, New Jersey. And you can go to our website, bestparrotconference.com, and the registration form's up there.
Ooh, sign up now. I talked a little bit about Joseph and Toby, and they're in my latest DVD on understanding parrot body language, but you can also get a little glimpse of them right now if you go to my YouTube site. I think I have like 9 videos up there, I don't know. But the site is youtube.com/goodbirdinc, and you can check out a whole bunch of different examples of training with positive reinforcement and looking at some weird birds. I got the shoebill stork up there from Walsrode.
It's worth it just to go see them.
Yeah, Robin and I were fortunate to visit a bird park in Germany, and
the most amazing bird, the shoebill stork. It looks like a dinosaur.
It does, and the first one was hatched in, I think, Belgium recently. First one hatched in captivity, so that's a really big deal because they're very difficult to breed, apparently.
Very exciting.
Yeah, so cool bird. Check it out on the YouTube site.
And the enrichment tip of the week is parrots are a lot like children. You know, the box is more exciting than the toy inside. So just take a look around and see what kind of new things you can find just around your home for your feathered companions.
And my training tip is one way to keep your training sessions short is to make sure you end your session before your bird loses his attention for whatever reinforcer you're offering. Sometimes we push for a little bit more and our birds start to slow down in their responses, and then we actually end up into a little training dilemma. We start teaching them to be really slow in response to the cue, and that's not something we want either. So if you see your birds kind of over it, it's okay to stop, no problem.
Okay. Well, it looks like we're out of time. Some upcoming topics that we're working on: body language, sexual behavior in parrots, desensitization, boarding your companion bird, and we've got a whole bunch of other topics, but we're going to let you know about those later on.
Yes, as they develop. But of course, if you have suggestions, feel free to email us at barbara@petliferadio.com
or robin@petliferadio.com.
And if you would like transcripts of the show, you can visit petliferadio.com.
Well, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see what we can come up with for next time.
Sounds good. Bye.
Join us every week on Wings and Things and get a bird's eye view of everything there is to know about pet birds and how to make your frequent flyer a happy camper. Wings and Things, only on PetLifeRadio.com.